Hello and welcome back to another episode of FightOrFlight. You've just joined me in the A2A Cessna 182 and I'm currently flying an LPV approach into Fort Dodge, Iowa using Flight1's incredible Garmin GTN 750. I'll take you through a complete overview of this add-on once we're back on the ground, but I thought I'd jump straight into an approach and show you some of the features. If you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that I use a freeware add-on called PDF Kneeboard for displaying charts within the sim, and this time it's no different. Here's the RNAV LPV approach for runway 6 at Fort Dodge. We're flying towards the IAF at Golf Echo Golf Quebec, India, and we want to be at or above 3,000 feet. At this point we'll intercept the GPS glide slope. We'll switch off the autopilot just above decision height. As we can see from the chart, our decision height for an LPV approach is only 200 feet. Whereas the regular LNAV-VNAV decision height is 418 feet. This is one of the benefits of the modern LPV approaches, and for me, they're the most interesting approaches to fly with the GTN 750. Another benefit of the 750 is the ability to view charts directly on the device. It comes with a full database of charts for all North American airports, so let's pop out the gauge for a better look. We also have the option of overlaying the chart directly onto the map display, so you can literally fly the chart by the numbers. We're coming up to our final approach fix at AROV, and if you remember, the chart stated we should be at or above 2,800 feet. The 750 guided us down perfectly. This is where our decision height would be if we were flying an LNAV-VNAV approach. And here is where our LPV decision height would be. 200 feet makes a big difference in instrument conditions. I'll taxi to the gate and shut down and talk a little more about this add-on. I'm taking a look at Flight1's GTN 750, available for FSX, FSX Steam Edition and Prepared. The basis for the add-on is Garmin's real-world GTN series of aviation GPS solutions, which are the successors to the GNS series. Both the GTN 750 and the smaller, less feature-rich GTN 650 are available as separate add-ons from Flight1 and both require a separate purchase. Upon installation, you're required to download and install Garmin's own GTN PC Trainer software, which comes in at around 1.7 gigabytes. The trainer software comes with excellent documentation, a full worldwide terrain database, charts and safe taxi for all North American airports, and nav data from May 2014. Flight1 don't support updating the nav data, but I have heard on the grapevine that it's possible to use updated Reality XP nav data in the F1 GTN. Both the 750 and the 650 can be used together or independently. The real-world units allow cross-fill between installed devices, but this feature is unavailable in the F1 GTN at the time of creating this video. Flight1 have stated they're working on it for a future update. The gauge itself can be used in your add-on aircraft in two ways. the most simple being as a pop-up panel. This is the most compatible and should enable the add-on to be used in any aircraft add-on. The second and more involved solution requires support from the aircraft developer to integrate the gauge into the virtual cockpit. As you saw in the introduction, A2A are one of the developers who support the VC integration of the F1 GTN, and just this week released an AccuSim update to enable full integration into their Cessna 172, Cessna 182 and Piper Cherokee aircraft. Milviz support integration as a paid upgrade to their Baron 55, Cessna 310 and MD 530F helicopter. Real Air Simulations support the add-on in their Turbine Duke version 2. Real Air are one of the only developers who let you run two 750s side by side, so if you want to simulate being one of the 1%, they've got you covered. As I said, the F1 GTN can be used as a simple pop-up in your aircraft, but after you've used it in a fully supported aircraft, you'll find it hard to go back to the pop-up. F1 GTN integration is definitely one of the factors that I use when deciding whether to buy a new general aviation aircraft. Let's take a quick tour through the various screens of the 750. The GTN 750's display is broadly broken up into two sections. The upper section covers communications, while the rest of the screen is taken up by the map. You'll spend the majority of your flight time in the main map screen, and there's a lot to cover, so we'll return to this screen later. Hitting the back button always takes you to the previous screen or to the main menu. The main menu consists of 12 icons in 3 rows. The top row contains the most critical functions when flying that you'll access the most. The middle row covers your flight plan and waypoints, and the bottom row deals mainly with the GTN system settings. We've just seen the map screen, so let's go through the rest one by one. The traffic screen shows AI traffic in the sim within a 48-mile radius. Most of the various modes have a sub-menu button that allows you to set options specific to that mode. For example, tapping Menu on the traffic screen lets us set various traffic display and filter options. The terrain screen is useful depending on where you're flying. It's color-coded to show how close you are to the terrain beneath. The 750 will give an audible warning if it detects that you're flying too low. In the menu, you'll find the all-important TORS Inhibit button to toggle terrain warnings on and off. The next screen along is Weather. Although the UI works, the weather simulation is unfortunately inoperable. I really hope Flight1 can incorporate Active Sky Next support in a future update. Next up is Charts. As I mentioned in the introduction, Garmin provide a full set of charts for all North American airports. Charts for the rest of the world are not included. While the included charts are nice to have, they are admittedly a little hard to read on such a small screen and should only be relied upon as a backup to your paper or other digital charts. The flight plan screen is very comprehensive in the 750, and not surprisingly, this is where you'll enter all the waypoints for your flight. Additional waypoints can be added before or after existing ones. Let's enter a real-world flight plan from FlightAware. We're starting at Jacqueline Cochran Regional, KTRM, and our destination is Fresno Yosemite International, KFAT. We'll enter our first direct waypoint, PSP. The unit displays any duplicate waypoints in a list ordered by distance and bearing relative to our current location in the sim. We'll go ahead and select Palm Springs. Before we hit the star at Fresno, we'll fly to Lando. A quick glance of the preview shows the waypoints on the left and the overview map on the right. We're just missing the airway that connects PSP to Lando. Thankfully, airways are a breeze to insert. Simply select a waypoint that's part of an airway and click Load Airway. We're looking for Victor 386 and our exit point is PMD. Again, we have an overview of our selection, and after verifying it's correct, we can load it. Our airway is now inserted into the flight plan, and we have the option of collapsing all airways to simplify the list. Another click on Preview and we'll see our entire plan. We can now store the flight plan for future trips. The 750 has the capacity to save 99 flight plans, and it's worth noting that all settings and flight plans are persistent across your aircraft add-ons. So any flight you save can be used in any other aircraft that supports the GTN 750. After setting our flight plan, we'll move on to the procedures page. Here's where you'll set your SID, star, and approach. KTRM has no published departures in the real world, so none are listed here. In this case, we'll rely on ATC vectors. In arrivals, Fresno is entered automatically as it's our last waypoint. We'll go ahead and select the Alta 8 arrival. Just like the airways, the procedures are inserted into the flight plan and can be edited or removed independently. Finally, we'll be flying an ILS approach on runway 29 right. For the approach, the transition has defaulted to ATC vectors, but as we know we'll be flying to Alta, we'll go ahead and select that as the transition. Beyond Fresno, we can see the missed approach procedure and holding pattern in case we need it. We now have the option of loading or activating the approach. At this point, we just want to load it and confirm the real-world warning. In case you missed it, the 750 automatically entered the ILS frequency in the Nav1 standby, which makes it very easy to tune to as and when required. And there we have it. We've completed our flight plan. As we saw, it takes a matter of minutes to input a full list of waypoints and procedures, and as you become more accustomed to the 750, that time will decrease dramatically. The next screen along is nearest. Think of this as your GTN database client. All airports, nav aids, and radio frequencies can be viewed from here. The bottom row of icons deal with real-world services that aren't used in the sim, but can be tuned to for practice. The waypoint screen is similar to nearest, but here you'll find a direct create waypoint function. This is a great touch for the 750 and allows you to create custom waypoints anywhere in the world. You're able to name them and attach a comment, and the position of the waypoint can be based on coordinates or relative distance and bearing to other existing waypoints. Once you've entered a custom waypoint, it behaves like any other. The temporary toggle switch only keeps the waypoint in memory until the unit is switched off. Services is another example of the 750's training nature. The functions exist in the real unit but aren't simulated here. While it would be nice in the real world to send an SMS or listen to the radio directly from the 750, I'm sure you will agree that in the sim it's not really necessary. Utilities contains a few very useful apps. VCalc allows you to plan your descent based on parameters that you input. Say we want to be at 2,500 feet, 7 miles before Fresno to intercept the glide slope, and we'll be descending at 400 feet per minute. As we're on the ground at the moment, there's no vertical profile being calculated, but as soon as we're above our target altitude, you'll see the relevant data here. Toggling on display messages will send a message notification when you should begin your descent. Flight timers allows you to set timers for your flight, and rain prediction obviously applies to the real world but not to the sim. The trip planner and fuel planner are closely related. In the trip planner we can calculate how long it will take us to get to a given waypoint based on our current ground speed. The unit has various sensors attached to our plane and is able to calculate the current ground speed, fuel and fuel consumption. Again, we're not moving right now, but we can manually input a ground speed to get an estimated time en route and an ETA to Fresno. The same concept applies to the fuel planner. We're able to see the fuel required to get to a given waypoint based on fuel on board and fuel flow. Just for example, I'll enable a sensor and change the fuel amount in the sim. The sensor readout updates accordingly. Another calculator is available here that calculates air density, true airspeed and headwind component, also based on sensor data or input manually. Scheduled messages allows you to set a timed message that will send a notification on the unit when the timer runs out. Clean screen only applies in the real world and blackens the screen so you can wipe the smudges off it. The final screen we have is System. The top row of icons apply to GPS settings and don't really apply to the sim. In Setup, we have a few options for CDI, date and time, nearest airport criteria, and comm channel spacing. Alerts allows you to toggle on and off system messages for arrival and various airspaces. Units allows selection between imperial and metric units. In Ownership, you can select which icon you would like to be displayed on the map. Another nice little touch. Lastly, audio and backlight functions are not simulated, apart from being able to select the TOR's alert voice. Well, that wraps up our tour of the system functions. As you've probably noticed, there are some hardware controls on the unit. The knob at the top left is for real-world volume and squelch control. The home button on the opposite side always takes you back to the home screen, and holding down this button takes you directly to the map. The all-important Direct To button can be found below and can be used to select any waypoint for easy navigation. If you find yourself in an emergency and need to land, you can use nearest airport to get you there. The dual knob in the bottom right corner is for tuning radios. Middle click swaps between comm and nav radios, and a long middle click sets the current standby frequency to active. In the sim, however, I tend to use the comm fields directly. Clicking on standby allows you to input a frequency or find one from the database, and switching between frequencies is a matter of clicking. Intercom and some of the options in audio panel only apply to the real world, but you are able to monitor more than one frequency in the sim. Useful if you're flying with online ATC. Mic selects which comm frequency you're transmitting on, and lastly we have the transponder. We're finally back to the main map screen, and I'd just like to talk a little about the interface. The touchscreen interface is implemented extremely well and translates seamlessly with using the mouse in the sim. Left-clicking simulates a finger tap and drag, and using the scroll wheel simulates a pinch gesture for zooming. The display is very responsive, and Flight1 have done a great job in ensuring that the add-on doesn't cause any noticeable effect on performance. What you'll typically see when you start up the unit is an overview of the airport that you're currently at. This is known as Garmin's Safe Taxi system, and gives a detailed overview of all taxiways and runways at your current position. Obviously, your experience with this relies heavily on any accurate payware airports you have installed. Safe Taxi only applies to North American airports, but if we take a look at another airport in another country, you can see that while the taxiways and aprons are missing, the correct runways are indeed present. If we look at the submenu, there are quite a few display options for the map, and you're able to quickly declutter the display or show as much information as a 750 will allow. We're also able to customize the data fields surrounding the main display, and we can choose from a long list of relevant data. The F1 GTN is able to display wind speed and direction, and this is an extremely useful field to have displayed at all times. The CDI button caused some confusion at first. This toggles the data source for the unit between VLOC and GPS. If you're flying an ILS approach, make sure that your nav radio is tuned to the ILS and the CDI button is showing VLOC. If you're flying an RNAV approach, this needs to be set to GPS. In short, if you're having trouble flying an approach, make sure to double check this setting. The F1 GTN is a very capable and highly polished GPS add-on. It's also very deep, and I'm nowhere near an expert on its use. It seems that every time I load it up for a flight, I find something new. The interface is very intuitive and responsive, and combined with the brilliant Garmin documentation, you'll find that some of the more advanced features are never more than a few clicks away. If you're on the lookout for a GPS add-on for your favourite general aviation aircraft, you really can't go wrong with the F1 GTN. And I hope to showcase more of its features in a future video, so be sure to subscribe. In the meantime, goodbye, take care, and see you again next time.